Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and the society in general. I am Father George Ehusani, and I have a special guest with me in the studio today, a guest I had known since 1984. 1984, when he was a young professor, a 38-year-old professor of science education. I am speaking of Professor Olugbemiro Jegede. Prof, you're welcome to the studio.
Thank you very much.
I am honored to have Professor Olugbemiro Jegede, who is a professor of science education, is also a professor of open and distant learning from the University of Hong Kong, right?
Correct.
The professor of science education is from ABU.
From ABU, actually moved on to University of Abuja.
Great.
From University of Abuja, yes.
Now, Professor Olugbemiro is the founding Vice Chancellor, the Foundation Vice Chancellor of the National Open University of Nigeria from 2002 to 2010. Then, quite interesting, after completing his term at the National Open University to put all the structures in place from no student, the National Open University of Nigeria today has what? About 600,000
students.
600,000 students. That is a town on its own, if they were to come together.
Yes.
Then, from 2010, Professor Olugbemiro Jagade was invited to be Executive Secretary of the Secretary General of the Association of African Universities, which was a mouthpiece of the African Union, the educational unit of African Union Higher Education Unit.
Yeah.
Wow. Then, after his term as the head of that unit, which was based in Ghana,
Yes,
Accra,
correct.
Ghana,
Yeah.
he was invited to be Secretary of Government of Kogi State. The Kogi State government, he served as the Secretary of
Government.
to Government.
Under WADA, yes.
Under Governor Wada then. Now, after completing his term, he is back to the university system as Professor Emeritus of the National Open University of Nigeria. Your experiences are varied. You were in Australia once.
I was in Australia, then from there to Hong Kong.
You taught in Australia, you taught in Hong Kong, and then in ABU, in the University of Abuja, and the Open University.
Yes.
And wow, your experiences are diverse and rich. And I got to know you in 1984 when in Ogori they were celebrating this, very proudly were celebrating this young person from here who is a professor of education. And you did come to address us at the Ogori Magogo Teacher Training College, you remember?
Yes.
And I mean, I can't forget that day and what inspiration it was for the young students that you came to address. Now, Professor Jagade, who is 68 years old now and still going strong, I want us to reflect on the plight of education today in Nigeria. You are a beneficiary of good education in Nigeria, and you have contributed a lot to good education in Nigeria, including the building blocks of the Open University in Nigeria. What's going on with education? Since March 2020, since the COVID-19 came, all institutions closed, and people were told, go into, migrate to e-learning, virtual learning. Well, Open University is already there because that's what you are set up for. However, almost all government-owned universities, state and national, almost all of them are not able to migrate. And I am aware that private universities, most of them have migrated and they concluded their semester, and many have taken their exams and are ready for the next session. But all our public universities, almost all, have not been able to migrate. And then this is perhaps an indication of where public university is. So I want us to reflect, what has happened to public university? Public education system and all, because what is happening with the university is also happening with secondary schools. While a number of private secondary schools were able to migrate and do online lessons, public secondary schools are not able to. Same with primary schools and even nursery schools. What's going on?
What has happened? Okay.
What has happened to education? Because some of us are beneficiaries of public university, of public education. I went to government secondary school now, Abdulaziz Atta Memorial College, and I got a good education. I got part of my qualification from University of Ibadan and got good education. What's going on?
Right. Father George Ehusani, let me thank you for bringing me in, for inviting me. It's a pleasure to have you ask me to come in and be part of your regular discourse on several things in Nigeria. And today we are talking about education. Well, when you talk about this education, public education in Nigeria, it takes me back to the good old days. As they say, the good old days are when early ideas had an owner. They are gone forever. It was the musician Che in 1989 who sang this song and said, "If I could turn back time, if I had my way," and then all that. He's saying that if we can turn back time, but of course we cannot turn back time. But the only good thing about good old days is that they are gone forever. We are only left with the memories. I mean, during my time when I was a little boy, I'm actually older than independent Nigeria, as you have said. We used to enjoy going to school. We were enjoying celebrating Empire Day. We had good teachers. Education was fantastic. Teachers, even with grade 2 or grade 3 or whatever, were fantastic teachers. They were committed, they were dedicated, they were truthful, they learned every time, they were disciplinarian, and they taught everything they wanted to teach at that time, and they were very, very devoted. These days, things have gone haywire. Healthcare is virtually non-existent. The postal system don't even work. Civil service is a caricature of itself. Religion is now being mocked by anybody, everybody. And yet we had good missionary schools. I attended missionary school, both at the primary and secondary. And then from there, I went to Federal Government College. We had the best of times. But unfortunately, things went haywire. And as we were saying, things started declining actually during the military regime. At the higher education system, the military regime in Africa contributed, and the World Bank also contributed. Because I remember there was a document in 1988 that the World Bank advised governments at that time not to focus on higher education, that should spend their time on basic education. And because of that, military governors, everybody, they were not interested, and they were kind of intimidated by education. And so they never wanted it to happen. And then, of course, we had the landmark of 1976. It was a wonderful idea that we're going to have free education for everybody. It was a wonderful idea. It was actually propounded in, I think it was announced in Sokoto at that time. 76, it was announced. Nobody thought about teachers. It was only 2-3 years later, somebody now sat up in the middle and said, "Oh, we must train teachers." And that was where they now started the National Teachers Institute in Kaduna.
Backward integration.
Of course, it was. Yeah, they were thinking backward. So we didn't have teachers. People were under the trees. People were under the hut everywhere. No teachers. So how can you build a house without the building blocks? And that was what happened. That is what has led us to the problem we have today.
So the Nigerian government has continued to think that you can throw money at problems and solve problems when perhaps the most important resource in education is the teacher.
Yes.
I mean, I am aware that when that 1976 policy came, of course there were no teachers, and several schools were established. Yeah. And now they brought the, the crash program to train teachers overnight. Yeah. And there are some of these things that you cannot achieve high quality overnight.
No. Definitely not. Definitely not. At that time, or from that time, it seemed that education was programmed for success, but trained for failure.
Education was programmed for success,
but trained for failure. Because we program everything should work. I mean, Nigeria is one of the best countries in the world that will write the best policies. And you read it, you think even our English is better than Queen's English. But implementation becomes a problem. And so because we can't implement this very well, we are programmed to fail. Everything became so rigid. We were living in the past. We were using archaic curricula. we're living these days, we're not living in the 21st century. We are still living in the 19th century. And unfortunately, what has happened is that because the education, the quality has been declining every year, we are driving the best either out of school or out of the country. On 3 occasions, I can name 3 instances where we have sold out the best of our brains outside Nigeria. First, slave trade.
Now that
because
one is
to go all through, the ship and go for 6 months, you must send the best.
Yes.
And so our forefathers, whoever they are, send the best outside this country.
Otherwise, they will die on the way.
Yeah, they will die on the way and left the dregs. But let me just quickly say, I hope one day we'll come back to talk about it and say, have we apologized on behalf of our great-grandfathers, apologize to the people we sent across who are suffering up to today? We created that problem. Nobody has apologized, but we'll come back to that.
It is worth having a session to discuss because I have a friend in Switzerland, a Nigerian, who says that our lack of progress in Africa, and particularly, let's say he says West Africa, where a lot of these slaves
were taken away.
That our lack of progress is on account of the fact that we have not settled the souls of our brothers and sisters that perished in that sea.
Either along on the sea or even and
that they never got a decent burial.
Exactly, they didn't. So let me go. The second time when we sent people away was during the Andrew checking out. At that time, because of the problems we have, educational system, the best in education all left the country. So that was the second slave trade, if you like it. The third is what is happening now. Every Nigerian wants to send the child either to England or to Canada or to wherever.
Even Dubai now.
When I was in Ghana, every day, I was there as Secretary General of the Association of African Universities. Every day, people were phoning from Nigeria, can you help find my child a school in Ghana? I said, why not Nigeria? He said, but you are in Ghana now, find out you don't want our children to do it. So we were sending, and then of course, we also started sending people to Malaysia. At a stage, we had close to 7,000 Nigerians in Ghana, about 8,000 Nigerians in Malaysia. Multiply that by $10,000 per student just for school fees and another 10,000 for living. You saw capital flight, resource flight, and all that. Till today, we still send these people out. They will never come back. Don't let's deceive ourselves. Only 1% or 2 will come back to this country.
So we are investing the little resources we have
and sending them out
to train people to go and help other economies.
Exactly. And because we live in a rigid system, we still believe in crime and do that. Our people are doing better outside. When you send them, because we are training them not for Nigeria, not for the 21st century. We are training them to fit into the lifestyle of those who came to colonize us and taught us education. We are still living in the education of the old times, not now. So when they go, they fit in. They are doing so well. But I can bet you, if you bring all those people back to Nigeria, the world fail again because the system has gone, it has collapsed. So the pages, what do? The pages of yesterday cannot be revised. But the pages of today and tomorrow are blank. And you and I and the public, we still have the pen. So we can write a new educational system for our children and the generation to come. Let me come back quickly to what we are talking about the COVID-19 and the problem we are now having in the educational system. Yes, the world has moved. Yes, we needed to change our thinking. We needed to move online. By the way, since I became a professor of open and distance learning, and even when I came to Nigeria, I have been talking about online education. I'm an expert in e-learning. I did that for other countries. But of course, when I came here, people felt it will not happen. But I thank God, like you said, it has now happened. It actually happened before. We were doing it in Open University, National Open University, but it is COVID-19 that has brought it out. But all of a sudden, we now have our public schools, primary, secondary, and university to move on to e-learning. And then there's a hiatus. There's a problem. Because it's not a question of having a computer before you or having a data bank for you or having a network system. That's not it. You have to train people. People have to learn how to teach online. Students have to learn how to learn online. You have to teach the technologists on what to do. You have to know how to set exams online. You have to work your content to fit online. We don't even have the resources. Our teachers many of our teachers in the universities are not trained, not even trained to teach face-to-face, let alone talking about online. There are many university professors who are still, the older ones, who are still afraid of computers. You go to their desk, if they have it, it will be gathering dust. So how can you train such people? How can you say we are moving on to online or e-learning? And that is why the private universities are doing much better.
Prof, we had, Terra had the training package.
Yeah.
And we did that in up to 2 universities, which we call University Education and Digital Disruption.
Yes.
That in an age of digital disruption, if you are a professor of education and all you know how to do is to stand in a classroom to regurgitate what you learned 25 years ago,
it's nonsense.
That you will not. Last year, I was telling a group of university professors that you will not survive the next 5 years.
No.
And they thought it was outrageous.
And now, COVID-19
within 1 year,
yes,
it has happened.
Come. In fact, I can tell you, I know of some of my colleague professors who have been using the same lecture notes for 30 years.
Correct.
So, I mean, they write 3 pages of lectures, they go in front of a class, like you said, they regurgitate, and the student will be saying, wonderful professor. The man knows everything overhead or forehead. Oh. The man knows the rich book, the look book. How will he look at book when all he's doing is looking at the old outdated things? He's never even heard of Google. He doesn't even know of e-library. He doesn't know about how to write materials. He doesn't even know how to write byte system. These days, children in Nigeria, we still force our students to stay for 1-hour lectures. It's no more happening because we don't know our students. We don't know who they are. We don't know their environment. These days, in other parts of the world, we talk about byte system. You don't schedule lectures more than 30 minutes because the attention time of students is gone down. So your lecture must be just for 20 minutes and only 10 minutes to review and allow your students to interact with you, to talk. So if you just go in front of the television or whatever and you are regurgitating, it doesn't make any sense to anybody. That is, I mean, you are just embellishing anything. It is just, you are only putting it down that it doesn't change the students. So, in fact, at this moment, I can tell you that 70% of our students at the undergraduate level know more than what many lecturers are teaching them. Because by the time they come into the class, they will have gone on to Google, on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever. They will have learned so many things. In fact, students learn more in spite of what you teach them in the class. Yes. They learn outside now.
We said it during that our workshop on digital disruption. We said that, look, if it is facts and figures, I can get it from Wikipedia.
Of course.
I can get it from Google.
From Google.
So, transmitting facts and figures today, we don't need the professor for it.
No.
Therefore, it means the professor is needed for something more.
Correct.
Something that only a human being can, which you are talking about, getting in touch, know your students, and tailor some of this learning to the needs.
Towards their need. You must start from where the learner is. Yes. In fact, the World Economic Forum 2 years ago came out with a lamentation that our system, educational and whatever, are no more tailored to our students, to the people that the job market needs. And they were saying that within 2-3 years, we are going to lose, across the world, we are going to lose close to 60 million jobs. But yet, that the system allows us to create another 500 million jobs. If we can look at other things, we can look at skills that we no more talk about certificates. In fact, it's dated to be saying all you want is a certificate. They say, because I have always said that don't talk about certificates. In fact, when I gave a lecture in Singapore some years ago, I told them that in the future, there will no more be a need for exams. And people thought I was joking. When I came to Nigeria, they said he's a madman. But Singapore now no more gives exams. Malaysia is going to copy. And what they do is look at proficiency. It is portfolio system. What can you do with the skills and the education you have learned? So the world is talking about skills development. It's not only skills. It is, you say you are a computer scientist, come and do it in my presence.
Develop an app, let us see.
Why is it? Let me ask you further. Why is it that many of us, when your phone has got a problem, you don't take it to a department or a faculty of computer science.
You look for
you take it to the boy by the roadside to do it.
Who can fix it?
Who can fix it? Why is it that when you are looking to build a house, You are looking for a small...
good mason.
A good mason. You're not looking for somebody in civil engineering who has been trained in that. Why is it that when you want to build a house, you are not looking for somebody who is well trained from the university in architecture. You are looking for somebody by the roadside to draw. It's because the education we are giving to students, to people in 21st century, no more meets with the skills and the needs of the society. The World Economic Forum has listed 20 skills that we must know how to, we must give to students. And those 20 are not in whatever we are teaching them. You know much teach students about, why will I go to a place and be saying photosynthesis is this and that and that? No.
When the student can read it.
When the student can read it, the student can see what photosynthesis is doing. He can see the green plant. All you now need to do, how can you divert it? How does this help the ordinary farmer? How does it translate to your mother's kitchen? Because when your mother is washing ugu or washing the efo, she's washing away the chlorophyll.
Yes.
And that was done by photosynthesis. These are simple things we needed to do.
You know, Prof, when we developed this training program for university lecturers in Terra by Foundation, we called it Adult Competency-Based Learning Mechanisms. Yes. That what people need today is competence.
It's competence.
So adult competency-based learning mechanisms is not about how much you know. Yeah. It is about show us what you can do in every area of human enterprise. Yes. Show us what you can do. Yeah. If you cannot demonstrate that you have this skill, then all you say you know is of no use to anyone.
That's true. When I was at the Open University of Hong Kong, I fought to introduce skills and competencies. And I said, there's no reason why a professor next door will be earning the same thing as myself or another professor. We must show the competency. You don't, professor, you are earning, two of us cannot be earning $20,000 a month. No. Your salary should be dictated. You should have what you call a base for the salary. Everybody should have probably $5,000.
Yes.
Thereafter, it is how many students do you have? What can you do with the competence?
What research,
have you done? How many patents do you have? How much research grants have you brought in? How much innovation and creativity have you brought into your teaching? How have the students evaluated your teaching? And this has now become worldwide. Students now evaluate teaching. In Australia, it is every time. Once you finish a course, the students will evaluate you. In Nigeria, it is not. Instead, it is all harassment, all kinds of harassment, whether it is sexual or whatever, or asking students. Can you imagine? We got so low in some places where a professor will be asking a student, I hear say you travel, what do you bring for your professor?
Very sad.
So in some universities, they contribute to buy tires for professors. It has become so terrible. And I'm glad that government has realized it. I'm glad that even NUC knows about it. So they are working hard to check these systems.
So as we need to round up this segment soon. What can we do? Because when you say government has realized it, everybody seems to have realized that we've been going downhill. But we are still going downhill. What can we do so as to at least arrive at a point at which we begin to climb up? What can we do?
I agree. Father, what you should note again is this. Like we said, things started going down the drain right from probably 1976, if I put a date to it. So it's like once you build a house and you start removing the brick or the block every time, at a time it will collapse. To put all these things back take time. So it's not that things are not being done. Things are being done, but it will not show now. Just like the destruction did not show immediately, it's going to show. But things are being done. It will take time.
What about
physically? Some of the things that to be done is you need to review the curriculum.
Okay.
You need to go back and start training the teachers, real training, what should be done. Even for example, for online, that is what you need to do. You need a completely different policy now for education. The policy we are looking at was in the 1970s. We revised it in 80-something. It is no more useful to us. We need to change the policy. We need to talk about equipment. We need to talk about, you need to talk about funding, but you have to decide what you need that funding for before you get the money. I've always told my colleagues, don't start asking government for money when you haven't told them what you're going to use it for. Some of them put all kinds of things. They force them somewhere, from what I've heard, to pad it for no reason. Until you know what, in many places today, there is enough money to run the system. In fact, I can tell you today that in TED Fund, they have quite a lot of money that many universities, many state governments have not accessed. UBE have been telling, UBEC has been telling us that state governments have not been able to raise the counterpart funding to take the money. So the money is there. But our people are just not doing it. So unless we wake up and say something, the last point I need to make here about getting the funding or getting things work is that it must be community-based. Our people must talk. Our people must say, look, what is it my child is
when the community must be part of the educational enterprise.
Exactly. When you and I went to school, our parents didn't go to school. They didn't know what we were doing. And so, at that time, school was better than the house. Now, the house is better than the school. Because they don't, you don't want to go to a school where the children are staying in 20 of them in a room. But parents are now enlightened. Why are parents not checking? The only one good thing that COVID-19 has done for us
is to force children and parents to
sit together. And the parents are now seeing, you mean this is what these teachers have been doing? Oh, they've done a lot of things. You mean this is what I'm supposed to do? So even the parents are now forced to relearn how to take care of their children.
I mean, we shall end on this note that there are parents who have forgotten their primary 2 arithmetic or primary 4 arithmetic.
They had to revise it now. Has forced them to go and dust their
because
papers.
They need to help their
They need to learn. Yes.
I have been speaking with Professor Olugbemiro, Jegede, Professor of Science Education and Professor of Open and Distant Learning, first Vice Chancellor of the Nigerian National Open University of Nigeria. Prof is now Professor Emeritus of the same National Open University, and it's a privilege to have you in the studio. We shall have you again to discuss other issues as you are passionate about the Nigerian situation. God bless you for coming.
Thank you very much, Father. I'm so pleased to be here.
Thank you.